2, 1. Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, the reason why the largest central business districts all around the world are congested is because people, governments, and businesses are greedy and make shithole decisions. For example, people, as I agree with whoever said it on top half, kind of think that going here is gonna solve all of their problems. It's gonna be the land of milk and honey, and I'll automatically get rich. Governments rely on the public or private market way too much and expect them to solve all of their problems. And these landlords just have no incentive to be able to put their money back into the real economy. In status quo, okay, I get paid normal rent, but I'm likely just to be able to save that or put it in something very conservative like a bond or a money market time deposit. But we also have to understand a big problem in these congested cities. Not only is there real estate inflation, not only is it traffic as fuck and crowded and quality of life sucks, but something very specific to the real estate market is that in many cases, you actually have an oversupply of these particular units. Meaning, it's so congested, people don't have a place to stay, but you have an oversupply because it's so expensive. This debate is specifically about how we can make the situation better and why uniquely through the South Korean model of Jeonse, things are going to be better. I have a few strategic observations of Top Half Clash, but please mark this also as constructive, positive material. Firstly, opening government calls out a problem they don't really solve. They correctly identify and say that congestion and the inflation of these asset prices is there, but it's quite unclear how exactly this new rental mechanism is going to be better. Which is why it's fair for opening opposition to be go, huh? Bro, it's on your side where it's more expensive. I don't get it. Huh? What happens to the poor? I have a couple of mechanisms to respond to opening opposition and extend meaningfully, vertically and horizontally from our opening because they missed it. Number one, as I suggested in my point of information, of which we heard no response to, is we push people on the ground to make smarter decisions. Aside from going into a CBD, willy-nilly, hoping and expecting life to be greener, we actually push particular people when we make the barrier to entry higher, when it becomes harder to rent, we push them to stay where they are. Stay in the rural area and study there. Growing potential economic hubs there, being an entrepreneur there, instead of trying to be able to go into this very competitive city where it's hard for you to innovate, hard for you to stand out. We think if you really want to work there, then it pushes people to do things like have to wake up fucking early and take a decent public transport. Because in many cities, these congested cities, they have decent amounts of public transportation. And let's say, even if they don't, then it pushes the government to be able to allow the landlords to reinvest back in things like government bonds, or even in the stock market, or even in the real estate market, because they get a windfall of cash to be able to do things like invest. That gives them more money to be able to do things like make those public transport, assuming it doesn't exist. The second thing I have to say is that opening opposition is right to be like, huh, how do you make it better because it's so expensive? But I think that's not necessarily the goal. The goal is to be able to help decongest these cities, which over the long run has a trickle-down economic benefit on real estate prices when you're able to expand outward or push your investment and working base to be able to go elsewhere. Number three, I think that if these landlords are so shitty, because I get that there could be risks, maybe they're not going to give you your money back or be mean about it. You have litigation, ladies and gentlemen, to bring their ass to court in instances where they don't pay you, or you have state-provided or third-party insurance claims to be able to use that as a means to be able to get your side of the deal. That is to say, and I hope you're understanding, if you make the rental barrier harder for the average person, that in and of itself makes people question that decision, and ultimately also has an effect on the landlord, because now that particular landlord, because he gets a lot of money and he wants to make a return on it, there's an incentive structure for that person to put it back into the real estate market or even back into the real economy in order to be able to help people. And I think my POI stands, right? Like, it's quite easy for someone to look for a friend or a homie or get a roommate if I really want to be able to move. But yeah, sure, opening up, go for it.
It's conjecture is making most money. If you reduce the people there, you just reduce the financial incentive for these cities to actually grow economically.
Bro, that makes no sense because they're already like a very rich and popular city. What I'm saying is that when we expand outward, when young people don't rely on hope that they'll make it in this big city, you're able to grow economic hubs in other rural areas at the point in which they don't do it. But I'm not saying people have to like stay there. Like I mentioned, if people really want to go there because they want to take that risk, then they can do things like get a roommate or try to make friends with other people and say, hi bro, I can't afford it right now because like it costs what, 2 years of rent? If you move with me, then we can all tank and take on 2, 3, 4 months if we want to be able to go there. What does that do? Something our opening missed. What that does is you put more people on per unit, which decongests it. Like, it's just math, right? Because the reason why it's congested to begin with is, I agree, people have property, but these people are the rich. So if we want to unlock the benefits of opening Gov's case for the urban poor or the middle class, you need to push them to be able to be smarter about it. But a few things, right? I think a lot of clashes are kind of moot coming from Top Half Clash. They were talking about, rent, you're gonna have to get into debt. My question is, bro, debt doesn't matter in this debate because you have to be able to pay for it upfront. That is to say, it's actually on their side, on the comparative, where you're probably to get plunged into debt because you have to pay for this on a rent on a monthly kind of basis. But here's the thing, I understand that people can't be afford to pay for it. But in those instances, don't go to that city. It's quite simple. Ladies and gentlemen, uniquely coming from close in government, the path to victory is that you're able to decongest cities, you're able to allow people to be able to afford it when they're able to work smarter, and number 3, you create a mutually beneficial incentive structure that has a trickle-down effect for these landlords because they want to make a return on the money and give you your principal back, have to reinvest it. For all of these reasons, very proud to stand on side proposition.